Hey there, welcome back to Science Flixtion. I am Salim Sitterwalla, and as always, I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Carl Ames. Carl, how are you?
I'm pretty good. What's going on over there?
Not much, man. Excited.
Your picture are back up.
Yeah, I'm done interviewing. So I got I got that job, so I'm done interviewing. I don't have to have a blank space. I don't I don't want to have them seeing what's this guy weird
This
cartoons.
nerd.
There's nerd. We don't want this guy working for us. What's he got going on back there? So I'm all set with that. So I got the pictures back up and trying to grow my beard back slowly for surely. I'm just gonna let it grow out so then I can shape it out. Doing that. And last week we talked about after the show or before the show, I can't remember when we talked about it, but Detective Pikachu, I watched it. I went back and watched it.
All right,
I liked it. I liked it.
Cool.
I ended up liking it. It was a nice twist ending. It was an interesting twist ending. But yeah, it was pretty good. It was enjoyable. I don't know. I never looked if they're gonna make a part 2. I mean, I don't know if they can.
They haven't said anything as far as I know. I mean, I would think it was a pretty successful movie, so I would think that they would at some point. Especially you got Ryan Reynolds, he's in the bag as the Pikachu. And he did. It was like a weird casting at first, but then when you watch the movie, it's like, okay, yeah, that works fine. And then he's funny, he's good. So yeah, I would love to see him come back and figure out some kind of way to do it again.
Yeah, the leading actress that plays supporting cast to lead actor. She's in one of my favorite shows. She's a smaller character later on, but Supernatural. That's one of my all-time favorite shows. I just became a hardcore fan of that, and she was in that show. So I was like, oh, I recognize her now. So, yeah. So, it looks like Sonic Hedgehog movie, and so it says Legendary Pictures announced on January 25th it's hired Oren Uzel, who's recently worked on Sonic the Hedgehog and Men in Black International to write the script for the sequel. Oh, interesting. Good. Sweet. Yeah, so
speaking of Sonic the Hedgehog's coming out a month.
Yeah, that's coming out too. A lot of movies are coming out, man. We're gonna have a lot to decide on how we want to talk about what and when. Obviously Batman is gonna be this weekend.
Morbius,
Batman, April.
Sonic, and then something else probably. We'll get there.
Well, let's see if they actually bring Morbius out in April, though, because they might. It's April 1st, so maybe they're doing an April Fool's joke on us. Psych, we're pushing it back again.
Treating it like the New Mutants. It's just going to keep on getting pushed back. Did you ever watch New Mutants?
I never got around watching that because it happened. So, I was excited for it originally, but then it got pushed back. And then it was announced after the fact that it was announced after it got pushed back, it was announced that DC ended up buying, or not DC, MCU, Disney ended up buying Fox 21st Century. So essentially that movie is not going to be relevant to anything. I might go back and watch it just to see it. I liked I like the angle they took with it. They kind of took like a horror thriller angle to the movie as opposed to just being a regular X-Men mutant movie. So it'd be interesting to check it out. I mean, the cast was they had Macy Williams, right, as Wolfsbane,
Wolfsbane.
right? So that was an interesting, they had some interesting cast members in there. I might have to go back and check it. Did you ever watch it?
I did. I saw it in theaters when they were open for that 1 week.
How'd you
Yeah.
like it? Was it good at all, or?
No, it was terrible, but I like we don't need to go into a deep dive in the movie, but I think, like you said, the attempt to do that horror stuff, they didn't lean into it nearly at all. Barely, just like a little bit for maybe 5 minutes of it
Oh,
was,
interesting.
and then the rest of it was not. They should have did more of that. Um, some of the acting performances were pretty decent. Anna Taylor-Joy was, if that's her name correctly, I can't remember. She was awesome as Magic, but at the same time, she was still kind of like a little bit of a bitch as Magic.
Oh, okay.
So it was like that's what she was playing, but that's not the character that I wanted. But I still liked it. I still liked her. Definitely the best person in acting on that screen, and yeah, just the direction it had potential. It has a lot of potential, but it was still like a very bad movie. Anyway,
Interesting. Yeah, I was like I said, I didn't know what to expect. So I guess the preview was tricked us into thinking it was
yeah.
going to be like that type of mind thriller or a horror movie, but it wasn't. Um, oh well, whatever. Maybe like I said, maybe I'll watch it. Maybe I won't, just because MCU is gonna save the mutants and save all the other stuff. So we'll look forward to that. But let's get into our show for today. So we are gonna give our final thoughts on Peacemaker. But before that, we have a couple of fast flicks. There's a couple of things that have been announced or been released that I think are worth mentioning. So the first fast flick we have is Netflix Marvel shows and Agent of Shield are going to transition to Disney Plus on March 16th. So obviously, Agent of Shield is PG. It's or I don't know if it's even classified PG-13, but we've talked extensively about the Netflix shows like Daredevil, Iron Fist, Defenders, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Punisher,
Hmm.
uh, be very much, not even rated, like they're mature audience only. And it's very interesting that they pushed those onto Disney Plus, and I guess Disney is going to have a setting for like a adult lock or something like that they can put on where they can block certain shows. What are your initial thoughts finding hearing about this?
Yeah, that's what we, like I said, we've been talking about this for so long and wondering what they were going to do. Think it was going to go to Hulu, or that they were just going to, you know, uh, censor the stuff or whatever. There's some kind of approach in having this separate adult setting. That works fine for me. And again, um, part of one thing I want to mention, and as we were just like doing small talk, is that one of the reasons why I kept my Netflix account is because I wanted to have access to watch all of these shows.
Right.
As of like mid February, I actually canceled my Netflix because there's like no reason for me to keep it around month after month, because it's just not the content that I need to watch regularly. So I got like a few weeks left before my Netflix is over. But this stuff is on Disney Plus. I can just watch it then there, and it's going to be, the same content, presumably. And then, just obviously the Netflix logos and stuff will be gone, and I can still watch Kingpin smash somebody's head into the door of the car, and as long as it's still there, that leaves
And
like a little bit
Punisher
of a,
gunning
yeah.
down the entire mob.
Right, yeah, it leaves a little bit more confidence in what they're gonna do with Moon Knight, but I don't think they've actually said what the Moon Knight rating has been, if it's gonna be PG-13 or rated R, but, Either way, it gives me more confidence on Moon Knight and whatever other shows like Echo, what that's gonna look like and what that's gonna be. Because again, that the Daredevil characters are supposed to be rolling into there.
Right.
How violent is that going to go? Is Daredevil going to have a Disney Plus show, or are they going to have a movie for him, or whatever they're going to do with all of these people, all these characters, all of these shows? Which we still, I mean, there's still a lot of unknowns, especially with everyone wants to talk about is Iron Fist because not a lot of people really liked Iron Fist, and whether or not they're going to keep. Um, Finn Jones, I believe his name is, as Iron Fist. Mike Coulter as Luke Cage. He's got his own show going on right now, so he's kind of busy. Whether he wants to come back, or whether if they want him back as Luke Cage, who knows? What they're gonna do with the Defenders? Is Elektra Elodie Young? Is she gonna come back? Um, just still a lot of questions that are unanswered, but in the very least, these shows will continue to live on.
Yeah, I think my initial thought was I was intrigued the fact that, like I said, they bought these on because being rated R, and Disney for the longest time were mentioning they did not want to put any adult content on Disney Plus. They wanted to keep it at most PG-13 so kids can watch and family. It was like a family thing, right? Families can sit down and watch together. Um, them bringing these shows on there, it makes me kind of my mind my brain kind of wonder, like, imagine, like, maybe Disney and MCU is softening their stance on the ratings of what they're going to do with their future shows and movies, because some of the characters, like we've talked about coming in, especially like they're going to bring Deadpool into uh the MCU with 21st Century being bought up by Disney, and Deadpool obviously was a rated R movie, and they said they were gonna continue making that rated R for the third movie, and they were gonna stick to canon for the first two movies with Ryan Reynolds. They're not gonna like change a lot, supposedly a lot
Hmm.
of what that character is about. And then it made me think, hey, maybe Blade now they'll consider having a rated R rating, because Blade, obviously it would be cool to have him, seeing him just dicing up these vampires and making it like as bloody as some of the comics have been. Like some of the
Hmm.
like Blade comics are like, he goes in on them. Um and yeah, that's what my initial thoughts is. Maybe they're kind of open to it, especially because if they can do that parental lock or whatever uh in on Disney Plus, like, why can't they add more of adult-ish content to what they want to do with these shows, especially because, like, if you think about it, they're competing with DCEU in a sense. Obviously they've dominated DC so far, but DC does have that in all their stuff, not some pick and choose. All their stuff, it's a very adult, it's not supposed to be family friendly stuff. It's adult content,
Well,
mature,
leaning into that a lot more with Peacemaker.
right? And
Um,
and
yeah.
like a more darker adult-ish stuff, right? So maybe they're kind of seeing that, like, what? Maybe we don't need to make everything like PG-13, PG-13. Some things we can take that a little bit edgy, because that's what these characters are supposed to be, edgy. So let's
Hmm.
do that with these characters, certain ones. Like maybe Moon Knight will be a little more mature. I mean, they don't need to make it like super mature like Peacemaker, where they have really bad, like really adult, jokes and stuff like that. But maybe just push that boundary, make it a little more like thriller, spookier than you would uh you would with like Hawkeye,
Hmm.
or so forth. So maybe, yeah, I'm excited. I'm hoping that's what they're trying to do here. Like, I'm hoping that's what they mean to do. But it'll be exciting to see how they go about it, because I think it would, like in my opinion, I think it would be unfair to hold back characters like Blade, and especially when they bring in, if they do another like Wolverine down the line, I would like to see them go a little bit more edgier with Wolverine.
Hmm.
Wolverine, like Fox finally decided to do with Logan. Old Man Logan storyline. They've been like super edgier. Like I would like to see them do that and not stick to the PG, PG 13 uh mold or whatever. But
Do
yeah,
you
that's
remember that that re-release that I don't know if they ever actually sold it as a digital purchase or a Blu-ray or whatever, but that re-release of Deadpool where they edited and made it more like family friendly in theaters.
no, I remember hearing about it. I never saw it. Did you
I
watch
never
that?
saw it myself, but I knew like that's something that they did. And I wonder if that's something that's even possible like for all of these shows or just going forward to have a edited version of say Moon Knight and have like the original version be locked behind the parental settings and then have a edited version where there isn't blood spatter and there isn't excessive violence or they cut it short or they bleep out the adult language and stuff like that, cut out the sex scenes and stuff, and just have it because like imagine I can't imagine like of course like again I always think about toys, but that's actually a huge moneymaker for a there you go Once Upon a Deadpool.
Oh, right.
Uh,
Okay.
the um toys are a huge moneymaker for Marvel, DC, and stuff like that. That's why they always have different costumes, especially like Spider-Man. New costume means new toy because kids like see the thing, etc. It's hard to sell kids on or sell parents on taking their kids to go see a Punisher movie or show or something like that, and he's killing and just just all over the place, and then tell them to buy a Punisher toy. Like he's got like all of these guns and knives, and he's killing people, all this stuff. Deadpool, Moon Knight, Daredevil, etc. But if there was an edited version where, sure, he punches people, people get shot, whatever, but you can do shooting like they've done in the MCU. Black Widow shot tons of people, but there wasn't like headshots and blood all over the place. And it wasn't something uber violent. She's just shooting at Shatari. She's just shooting at Ultron bots. It's fine. Like Wolverine in the animated series. He had these metal claws out of his hands, but he only actually used them on sentinels and cyborgs and aliens, but never on any other mutants or human characters. And there was never really any bloodshed um, with him using his claws. And that's like the way that they went around that censorship. So I think it's possible that they can still do like a Wolverine and have it hardcore and have that be edited for Disney Plus so kids can still watch it and not have to be exposed to hyper violence.
Yeah, that's another thing they can, yeah, definitely do. It'll be interesting. Like I said, I'm hoping my thought process is correct that they're more open now to for their future stuff that's coming up in Phase 4 to add a little more edge to their certain characters that should have more edge. So that'll be fun to see if they go about that. The next fast flick and final fast flick we have well, we've talked about Batgirl movie that's going to be coming out on HBO Max. That they're in production right now. They're shooting the film, and little by little stuff has been released. And recently, I don't know, if it was just yesterday or it was the day before yesterday, but they released a picture of Brendan Fraser dressed as Firefly. That's the scene in the movie, what he's gonna be looking like, the costume, and the comic version. So, like, to kind of give you an understanding of who Firefly is, because I'm, a lot of I've I've heard of him in other forms of media and stuff like that. Like I've come across him in like uh in the Justice League the cartoon animated series, and then there's some other stuff that I came across where I remember him. Um, and I think like maybe one comic because he's a Batman. He's in a Batman series. Because I've read passingly about it. So he's initially, when he first comes out, he's initially portrayed as a criminal, who utilizes like lightning effects to commit robberies. But then later though he's reimagined as like a sociopathic like um pyromaniac that's obsessed with like compulsion to start fires. That happened like following Crisis on Infinite Earths, when DC did their reboot of the universe in the 80s. And this is like the darker deception that was in Batman's comic, because Batman, that was in the 80s is when Batman really became darker too.
Hmm.
When they went, because Batman wasn't originally like the Batman we know now, the dark Batman. He wasn't that dark originally when the original comic came out in the 60s. Um, so he's, like I said, he's one of the most reoccurring enemies um, in Batman's like central rogue gallery. So it's yeah, it was interesting to see that release, and we get a little background. Like I said, give you a little background on who Firefly is. What are your thoughts on seeing this? And I guess I know we've talked about background in the past as well. With this movie, are you fairly? I know you're not a big DC guy, so
Yeah,
are you the same?
I'm not terribly familiar with Firefly, or really, I would say I'm not familiar with him at all. But I was reminded that, like right before we started the show, that he was actually a character in the Batman Arkham Knight game, which I don't remember him, or at least I'm starting to remember him now. But he wasn't like super important. I think he was just like a side thing. Um, but despite that, um, if you look at Batman or Batgirl's Rogues Gallery, he's not like a character that you just immediately think of in that Rogues Gallery. So he's definitely like on the C tier probably of villains. Maybe that's a compliment. I don't even know, honestly. But in general, I'm not too educated on him. We got Brendan Fraser playing this character, which I haven't seen him in so long, and I think you were saying that he's on Doom Patrol now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I'm guessing they canceled that series. I saw season one, and I really enjoyed it. I liked season one, but I didn't. I never. I watched like the first two episodes of season two, and I just wasn't feeling it as much. I don't know for what reason. Maybe I just didn't really give it a chance. Season one of Doom Patrol was really good, and let me. But yeah,
While you're looking that up, real quick, I did want to also mention that I have already got my Batman tickets. I will be watching Batman tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
excellent. So yeah, he plays Cliff Steele in Doom Patrol, and who ends up being a Robot Man. He does a really great job in that series, like, at least in season one, because like I said, uh, Robot Man, like he's like the way he's acting, like he's just in that big robot tin suit, so it's not a lot of like physical acting going on, but his voice, the way he kind of voice acts and shows the distress and different things, the way you know the character portrays is portrayed, he was really good. Like I was like, wow, this is really awesome. Like he's doing a really great job and really developing this character, making his own. So yeah, it's interesting that he's gonna be in this now instead. So I'm guessing they're no longer gonna be doing that show, and it's kind of similar to where how Marvel, granted it wasn't necessarily MCU Disney doing it, but like when they recast like Chris Evans from Johnny Storm to Captain America Steve Rogers, it's kind of similar in that sense. They're bringing back other actors that played different DC characters, or Marvel characters, what have you. So yeah, that's interesting. I'm intrigued by this movie. I thought it's interesting that they're just showing it straight to HBO Max. I thought they would try to put it in theaters, or maybe they are. I missed that.
I think it
Um,
was supposed to be on Max, but I'm more confused about where it's supposed to be, like what universe it is, because I thought at least from what I remember from fandom, that it was supposed to be in the same universe as the Matt Reeves Batman movie that's coming out tomorrow. But then I've also heard and seen the what you call it, Michael Keaton Batman supposed to be in this movie or referenced or something like that because he's that Batman's supposed to be replacing Ben Affleck in the DCEU after Flashpoint, as far as I understand.
Hmm.
So I'm more confused about, and then also it being Leslie Grace is the actress playing Batgirl, and she's black, and then the Commissioner Gordon is, her father, who's
Hmm.
in the Matthew Reeves is played by Jeffrey Wright, who's black. So I thought, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So if they're not in the same universe, then I mean, not that we can't have two black Commissioner Gordons, of course, but the Commissioner Gordon in the DCEU is actually whatchamacallit, J.K. Simmons, right? So that
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
really add up.
yeah, correct. And
And
when
Batman
they
v
show,
Superman.
yeah, yeah, that's right, that's right. So yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of um yeah, I don't know. Maybe I mean
Yeah, because
maybe
I don't know.
if
I
they're
mean,
sticking to
I
that,
was waiting for more.
maybe like maybe they show him portray as maybe J.K. Simmons as the dad, and then his wife is black.
Yeah, and that's possible.
I mean, it's possible. So, I mean, we don't know. Like, we'll
Yeah.
find out. Like I said, you mentioned, and we've mentioned in the past as well. The Flash movie, where they're in Flashpoint, they are resetting stuff. So, who knows what they'll try to do? Maybe we'll find out more. As far as like maybe they're keeping obviously something secretive on what's going to happen going forward. But yeah, we'll find out. But yeah, that's the last bits we have as far as fast flicks are concerned. Um, the uh, the Batgirl with Brendan Fraser as Firefly just that was interesting. They had that released. So we'll get into Peacemaker now. We've both of us watched the final what 4 episodes. I think it was 8 episodes. So we
Yeah, I
did
think we
four and
covered
four.
the first 4 at like a month or so ago, and then the
Right,
last
right.
4. Yeah.
So yeah, we finished watching it. So first, let's just get into like what you thought of like the entire series. Obviously, we gave our thoughts on the first 4 episodes, and then now that you've seen the final 4, what did you think of the entire series? Like as far as the show and the acting and all the different things that they did.
Overall, I'd say, still a positive reaction to it. I'm not, I don't think it was a perfect show. I don't think it was I don't think as highly of it as most people do, but I don't think like I don't think negatively and like, oh, it's bad, or I wouldn't watch it again, or I don't want there to be another season. I know they've already confirmed the season 2, so that is going to happen. But in general, like I said, I think it's okay. I thought it was fine. Definitely better than some of the other DC offerings that have been out there. Suicide Squad, Batman v Superman, and stuff like that.
Right.
But in general, I'm not like crazy about it, and I would like to have been a little bit more crazy about it. I like John Cena. I thought he did a fine job. I think he is a um pretty good Peacemaker. In general, the cast is fairly solid. Um, I think I said this before. I don't like. Uh, I forgot her name. The one on the right,
Abadiah.
Obadiah. I didn't like her too much, especially right away, because like in general, she was just like an annoying character, and I don't like that type of character in general. She did warm up a little bit. She did, as the season progressed, she developed and became a little bit more confident and became a little bit more reliable and had that whole dynamic with Peacemaker in Harcourt. But in general, like still not like super crazy about her as a character in general. And like, the rest of the supporting cast was just okay. I think Economos was like, it was interesting seeing how he kept going along with him not really having any field experience, but then like being the most badass one, doing the beating up judo master and all of the other things he did. I thought all of that stuff was fun. The writing was adequate. I again, not super high on it. Visuals had more of a budget than I was expecting, especially when you think it's just like this Peacemaker. He's a gun shooter, big strong guy, maybe some hand to hand combat and stuff. But like adding the visuals for the butterflies and the cow,
And
like
eagerly.
Eagly, which yeah, I love Eagly. If anything, I was expecting Eagly to be a little bit more of a trained, um, like a trained eagle, as opposed to just basically an eagle that just happens to be his best friend. They like remember he was like trying to give him commands like go fly this over
Right.
there, and it just like yeah, whatever. So I was expecting I was expecting a little bit more out of Eagly, but I still really liked Eagly. Yeah, and Vigilante, I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, it's not that I don't like Vigilante. There was a lot of funny stuff with Vigilante. He was good, but it's not so much that I feel that the appeal, like he doesn't hit for me as much as he hits for most other people. I don't mind if someone really likes Vigilante or he was their favorite character or um, this was an accurate depiction or not accurate depiction. It's not really important to me, or I don't feel any of that. It's just more of like, yeah, he's cool. He's all right. I like the relationship, and some of the jokes landed pretty good and all of that. But again, he doesn't resonate with me nearly as much. Um I think one of the better things about the show, though, which is very James Gunn, is that the music was good. Music choices were good, and it's not music that, like, if you compare the music that was in Guardians of the Galaxy versus this, because this was more rock, more 80s hair band stuff that I have no kind of familiarity with whatsoever.
Hmm.
But as a music appreciator, I can still hear good music, and I still like, yeah, this is pretty good stuff. Like, I really, you can see the characters enjoying the music. I enjoy the music. Maybe that's like them infecting me, their enthusiasm for the music. But in general, I thought they're pretty good music choices, and yeah, I would definitely, I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to season two of Peacemaker, but I'll be there. I'll definitely watch it. Like it'll once it comes up, it'll be something I watch.
Yeah. So yeah. So like we talked about like we said the original first four, and the first three episodes again I thought were very fresh, enjoyable. They made you appreciate like the supporting cast, but it kind of allowed you to get invested in the story. The later episodes, the last four of the series, you make you feel something is a lot deeper than that. Like as they're developing the characters, you see the good character development. Peacemaker makes you see him as more of a misunderstood character in Suicide Squad, because of because how he was getting portrayed in Suicide Squad. It kind of goes into this series, and they're showing like why he is the way he is, and then you see like kind of the his internal conflict that he has. You see that development. I thought the show was like very highly comedic, but also dark when it wanted to be. It was a good mixture of that. I felt like it didn't have like any forced comedy, like on like some like awkward comedy moments. I didn't think it had that. It was comedic when it should have been comedic, and dark and edgy when it should have been dark and edgy. So like I said, and I thought it connected really well with the DC property. Like what DCEU has essentially been doing is making a little more dark and edgier shows. Um, I thought they did that pretty well on this. And as far as like, so we're getting into the characters. Vigilante, it's funny. Vigilante is like obviously in this show he's portrayed as like that psychotic comic relief in Peacemaker as compared to what he is in in um in the comics. Like the only thing similar is like his borrowing his name and the costume, and then like little else is like I said is similar to who the character is within the comics, and which is something I broke down earlier when in the first four episodes, like when I was talking about who Vigilante is and all the different versions of Vigilante that's been in various different DC related shows and who he is in the comics and so forth. So like he's kind of like a hilarious and has like a hilarious psychological profile. It's something that I found interesting. I was kind of reading like various different articles about it, and the actor Freddie Stroma, he decided to kind of just play the character differently than compared because he was reading the comics, and he talked to James Gunn, and so there's a quote. He said, I started to realize that there's no point in trying to do any research in that direction. James just explained that he doesn't pick up a lot of social cues. He looks up to Peacemaker a lot. We really played with that, having him feel like he's the younger brother. He's an odd character with a lot of different colors. So just from that respect, he kind of just made Vigilante into a different character, made Vigilante different than anything we've seen in the comics and so forth. So yeah, I thought, like I said, the show for me was fun. It was entertaining. Um, I think I'm excited for a season two. John Cena, like to me, it's just interesting to see how he's doing as an actor because obviously we know him as uh, the wrestler who he was as a pro wrestler and stuff like that. But yeah, to me, it's just great to see how much he's like the reason why they made Peacemaker because he did such a good job in Suicide Squad that they wanted to explore this character further. So that was fun. What did you think about? Let's get into some of these other characters. So Harcourt, how did you find her as the show, like from the first four episodes going into the final four episodes?
I liked she had like a slow but steady development because she was pretty hard ass at right at the beginning and like not wanting like obviously Peacemaker coming right out of jail then basically trying to get an advance from her that's not gonna fly on most people but in general she was still pretty like closed off and uh slowly but surely she starts seeing some of the endearing qualities realizing what Peacemaker was going through with his father, what he was trying to deal with the butterflies, and seeing what type of person who he really was, despite all of that. And then she opened up. So eventually, like, and it wasn't like as far as I remember, they like it's not like they hooked up. It wasn't like the whole, they start at two ends and then get together at the end of the show. I don't that didn't happen. So I'm actually glad about that sort of thing. But yeah, in general, I think she was a cool character. She got a couple of fight scenes, like the bar fight, and then there was I forget the other fight that she had, but she clearly has training, right? She can,
Right.
she can shoot very well. Like, yeah, the last episode at in the field, shooting all the fireflies attacking, like,
Hmm.
she can hold her own with a gun. Like, she can do her thing. So she's pretty good, an enjoyable character, a nice addition to the cast. And I don't know what type of potential she has going forward, but in the very least, like if we know that there's a fight to be had, that she can hold it down solo, or she can be a part of the Peacemaker support group and take down groups of enemies or whatever, as long as they're like obviously not Superman or something like that. But I thought she was pretty good.
Yeah, I think yeah, she starts off as a very like the first episode, she's a very closed off character, like a tough, hard shelled character. And then as the series kind of moves along, you see her become a little more vulnerable, and she starts to feel like and act like as she's part of the team. Um, she like maybe in the beginning she kind of just feels like this is it's a mission for me. I'm just doing like I'm doing what I need to do, but as she gets more familiar with, you see her having that that personal scene with Peacemaker where she draws that peace dove for him because he says he can't kill anyone unless there's a peace dove. And then Peacemaker opens up to her saying like, I just don't want to kill anyone anymore. That's why I hesitated when I was supposed to, kill that family, the family of butterflies, or the the so-called um, political family that that they were supposed to monitor and take out, because they had turned into like they had reasons or another, and they find out that later on in that episode that they're butterflies. But yeah, so and then obviously she has that like in the bar scene when Peacemaker asks her name, she's like mean to him. She's like, "We're not friends. I don't like you." So she doesn't give her first name, and then you see her give her first names. Like, by the way, I'm Amelia. So yeah, you see them having that kind of moment where they're both kind of becoming friends, or kind of becoming friends, and she's like starting to kind of actually like him as opposed to just he's like you're only an 85% douchebag, compared
Mhm.
to like what she originally thought of him. So yeah, I thought that dynamic was fun, and it was it was a nice. I think she was a good character. Like I said, I don't know what they're gonna do. I agree with you. I don't know what they're gonna do with her going forward. If she's gonna be in the show again, who knows? Who knows exactly, like you said, what they're gonna do in season two? That's probably not even. Maybe they've decided some parts of it, but we'll find out. And then moving on, so White Dragon obviously is another important character in this show because it's White Dragon being Peacemaker's dad. He plays a big part as far as you know Peacemaker's internal conflict. So what did you think of uh, the character, and what did you think of how the actor portrayed him and so forth?
Okay, and another character that not familiar with going into this show whatsoever. Again, not being a DC person as far as comic books go or anything, but in general, I thought it was okay. At the end, I thought it was okay, and maybe kind of a good story to tell, a good type of character to have, because especially in this scene here. Uh, uh, I don't know if you hear that, but especially in this scene here, or like right after, or this is right afterward, but when he is approaching this bench, like this is when he goes to jail for the goes back to jail for the first time in forever,
Right.
and there's this guy sitting on the bench, and he's like, "That's my spot." And we already knew going into this that he was a bad guy. He was racist. He was an asshole. He was misogynist. He was sexist. No, all those things, all those terrible things. So in this moment when that happened, I'm like super worried, because yeah, those are all very bad things. He was a bad person, but I was getting uncomfortable because not only was he, back in jail, and we already knew that he had like a crew in there that kind of worshiped him and followed him, but the guy sitting at this bench was black. So I was
Hmm.
worried that something was going to happen to this, character, obviously not real, but it was more of how were they going to express the level of evil this guy is. And I thought this was going to be the moment, like he was going to beat this guy up, or have his people do it, or they were going to kill him, or they were going to do, something to express, like just to get you on understanding of how, like what level of bad guy he is. And they actually handle it more safely than I was expecting, where he just basically, told him to buzz off, and he did. And it really wasn't like there was no racial slurs, there wasn't any fighting, there wasn't any, like, I didn't feel like a bad taste in my mouth after that
Well,
interaction.
I think because that character that she's talking about, he looks around and sees like all these people that are looking up to him. He's like, you know what? I don't want to die before a seat. That's what he
Mhm.
essentially says in in the show. So he does get up and just leaves,
Right, that's
because
what
he doesn't
happened, but
want the
I'm saying, like,
conflict.
what could have happened as far as this is more of a direction thing that I
Oh,
trying to
okay.
compliment because of not going that far and showing that, like, yeah, he saw that, all these followers. It's like, yeah, this isn't worth getting beat up for or dying over a seat. And clearly, there's something a little bit more to this than just an old man wanting to sit in a chair. Uh, but like, yeah, not going in any sort of particular uncomfortable direction, but still kind of pushing the button, like getting close, or should I say, getting close to the line would be more of
Right.
appropriate
It was
thing.
yeah, it was early in the show too, so yeah, they gave you a taste of who he is.
Right, right. Like when we already had some, but like this is where I thought where they were going to go over the line or do something controversial or do something that was going to make you feel uneasy, but it was easy enough to digest where I understood what was going on. I understood this type of character and what he is and what he stands for, but I didn't need to see anything visually graphic or hear anything. So I compliment James Gunn for not going that far because again, he could have, but he didn't. So at the end of the day, like again, we still perfectly understood this guy is racist, this guy is sexist, this guy is all of those negative, terrible things that people shouldn't be. And what you call it, Peacemaker having to be raised that way, and then also seeing like once Peacemaker was like with his brother and those flashback scenes, that he wasn't that way. Like his father was, but Peacemaker absolutely wasn't. He was like complete opposite of that. So it was really like really nice to see um all those scenes with Peacemaker as a young boy. Like you get to understand, like, no, he's very much not like his father, despite him being raised by his father. So it's good to have that kind of character in these movies to have uh and all the even in like Marvel, DC, and all that stuff because they exist in real life, and this is a way to express that, to tell that kind of story, but without going too far and being triggering to somebody. It's like, yeah, I don't even want to say specific words, but just not to trigger too many negative thoughts, too much negative energy by going further than they need to.
Yeah, like the character, like in that scene, certainly, I think it was intentionally done because I just didn't think they wanted to go that route, um, for specific reasons, um, but I don't think it was necessarily related to the character for the show itself because the character is just an absolutely despicable character. Like there's no redeeming qualities for that character. Like when you um story, like the influence that he has on Peacemaker makes you understand why Peacemaker is so like the way he is and like how tormented and screwed up he is. And you find out as the show is going on, you see like like he essentially end up spoiler. I mean, we're giving a little bit of spoilers here, but he ends up wanting to obviously kill um his son, right? That's his goal, like eventually to go in and kill Peacemaker. That's what he's hunting him down. So yeah, that the character, like I thought, like Robert Patrick, who plays him, did a really good job of basically showing like that there's no redeeming qualities in him. He's a bad character. I know, like in other movies, like the villains tend to like he's obviously a villain. He's a side villain. He's not the main villain, bad guy or whatever, like objective of the movie. But sometimes movies will have like some redeeming qualities of villains, but they didn't even bother with this one because obviously they don't need to. This character shouldn't have any redeeming qualities, I don't think. Like he's just like a despicable character.
Hmm.
And I thought, like I said, I thought Robert Robert Patrick did a good job of kind of the way he approached this character and the way he acted and everything involved with the character overall. And I like the route the show went with the character as well. Um, yeah, so the next, obviously, the main villains, if you have the storyline of the show, are the butterflies. We have the one scene when they're all coming down. in the little spaceships. It's a pretty cool scene. But what did you think about like the whole them developing and showing us what the butterflies are and how they went about that in general?
When I was getting the screenshot from off the trailers, they actually said the butterflies in the trailers, like they actually directly mentioned them, and I was like, "Huh, I had no idea because I've watched this trailer before because I don't know what the butterflies were, so I probably wasn't even paying attention to them saying that when the trailer first dropped." But now that we know and we can tell clearly, because if I read DC and I actually knew who the butterflies were, I would have watched a trailer and then saw the guys flying through the windows and them blowing them, Peacemaker blowing them up in the factory. Oh, I would have known everything already. Like it would have been easy to understand what was going on. Uh, but watching and learning about them for the first time here, I thought they were okay. It was interesting, like once we figure out what their motivations were, and like were they evil or were they neutral? Were they misunderstood? Like what was going on with them? Um, yeah, I felt it was definitely some definitely modern commentary
Hmm.
in there, which I was totally fine with in general. But it was funny to hear that, and then still, despite that, like it was more of a like when the butterfly leader was talking to Peacemaker, he said, "Oh, we're not going to fight. Like, because I'm going to tell you what we're doing here, and convince you to, just like Judo Master, because we just came out straight up and told Judo Master who we are, what we did, and he decided to fight for us. You'll
Right.
do the same thing." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then like that was just more of the dilemma between, Peacemaker and the butterflies. Do you understand and agree with them? Do you because just that whole moral, like what which side is right? Like, do you go with the butterflies who potentially could save the planet, or but they need to take over host bodies to do so, or continue to let everyone on earth have free will but also let them continue to destroy the planet as they have been, and all of that. So I thought that was interesting, just to see it in this movie. Like, is that really the heroic choice or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was about.
Yeah, is Peacemaker even a hero in this movie or this show? Like,
I
that's
think it's
another thing.
about like not. It's about understanding like yeah, there that's a problem, but it's about like well, we have to come to that decision ourselves. We can't you can't just kill everyone and take over their bodies and do it. I think that's kind of like to like the end end doesn't justify the means type of scenario. I think
Hmm.
that's what I think that scene kind of portrays. Like you can't just kill all our leaders and everyone that's involved that we're doing to save the planet. Like we can't allow that. That's essentially what the butterflies essentially goal is in the end, is to take over all the eventually take over all the decision maker leaders' bodies and probably save the planet in that sense, right? So that's
Hmm.
what Peacemaker's like. No, we can't. He makes decisions like, while yes, you're probably right. We need to do something about this crisis. We're not going to let you just, like I said, we're not going to let the ends justify the means. I think that's what it essentially came down to. So yeah, I think he's still portrayed as a good guy in the end because you kind of see him coming to terms with like things that he had to do, like why he is the way he is, like things like the things that happened to him when he was a kid. It wasn't his fault. Like it was his father, like you mentioned earlier. Everything he was doing was his father's doing. But yeah, it's. I think that's what that scene really comes down to. It's basically about that. One of the best scenes in this movie, one of the better scenes in general, was like was this cameo of Justice League in the end. It was really funny because there's like there's a joke earlier in the show where where they're talking about Aquaman, and he's like, "I don't know about Aquaman. That guy fucks fish," or something like that. He has sex with fish.
Hmm.
Um, and then in the end, they have that cameo coming out because I guess they're talking about getting the Justice League involved to help them in this ending. And then as they're leaving, he's like, "You're late, you fucking dickheads." And then he tells Aquaman, "Why don't you go like again have sex with a fish or whatever?" Um, and then you see Ezra Miller joking around and saying, that's not a rumor. And, like, kind of messing with him, saying that he's like, because Aquaman mentions like, "I hate that rumor. I can't believe what's going on." Ezra Miller's Flash is like, "That's not a rumor," and it's kind of jabbing at him too. So I thought that was really fun uh how they involved them, and I guess James Gunn kind of wrote that in the end. Just kind of wrote when he was doing the script, he just wrote it in, and he's like, "Let's pull this off," and he was able to. It was pretty cool. What were your thoughts on that last scene with them, and how it all came together?
Well, yeah, I thought it was fun to see them, and it was really, especially to actually see Jason Momoa and what's his name, to be the Flash there. But
Ezra
the
Miller, yeah.
Ezra Miller, yeah, but Superman and Wonder Woman were stand-ins.
Hmm.
They were not actually Gal Gadot and whatever. I can never
Henry
remember their
Cavill.
names.
Henry
Henry Cavill.
Cavill.
They weren't actually there. They were just stand-ins, and you can tell that because they didn't actually zoom in on
Right.
them and have them talk. But I found it interesting that there was a full version, like the whole team, including Batman and Cyborg, that was shot, but they had to take out Batman and Cyborg for various reasons. So, I mean, because he did plan on having the entire
Right.
Justice League showing up, between everything going on with Ray Fisher and all of that drama, and whether or not he's going to come back. They just kind of felt it was better to, again, it was just would have been a stand-in. It wouldn't have been Ray Fisher, but still better to just not have him show up in this scene. And then the uncertainty with Batman, I think the studio said just don't have Batman in this scene, because of, again, the Michael Keaton stuff, the Ben Affleck stuff. It will be a little confusing to have either one of them show up in this scene. And they did have a stand-in. They did actually shoot it. I actually saw the actor. He was just like a stand-in actor, maybe a stunt guy, but he had the full suit on. So he did shoot something, but they ended up cutting him just to focus on the four. So it would have been cool to see everyone, but obviously they didn't want to have everyone, uh, the full actors, show up for the scene and actually do stuff, and spend more budget on them cleaning up the fireflies and things like that. You don't need to spend money on visual flex effects or Flash to zip around and punch a bunch of butterflies. But um, yeah, it was still a nice scene, a good Easter egg. The payoff for the joke with Aquaman is really good, and it would have been nice because me and you chatted about this a while ago, but um, because they never actually did it, which I'm glad I didn't say anything about them possibly teasing Green Lantern, um, which they didn't at all. But I would have liked for like Green Arrow, because they did have a Green Arrow joke earlier in the last episode. So I would have loved to have seen like Green Arrow show up,
Like,
as
yeah,
just as a cameo or something like that,
like
at
Stephen
some
Amell,
point.
you mean? Like Stephen Amell, you mean? Or
Well, it would have been the DCEU Green Arrow, whoever that may be, just as a quick. This is what like this is a new character, and this is the actor going to be playing them, not necessarily Stephen Amell, unless they want him to be
okay,
Green Arrow to in DCEU. But obviously, they haven't cast that yet, or if they ever plan on doing it. But it would have been nice to see something like that, or even like the other stuff, like Batmite. They talked about Batmite, and what other characters just to see some other characters they quickly referenced. Like that would have been fun too.
yeah. But yeah, like I said, that scene was fun, and as far as Batman and Cyborg are concerned, it'd probably be something to do with the future of Justice League. Um, how they're gonna do it. It was interesting also that they didn't include Shazam, because they kind of show him in end of Shazam. That's kind of insinuated that he ends up joining the Justice League, or like he's friends with them or something like that in some realm. So it was interesting that he wasn't in this as well. But yeah, I liked it. Like I said, the scene was really funny. It was not expected. It was kind of like, oh wow, they did something really like this. It's amazing. It's kind of cool to see. But yeah, that's any final thoughts, like as we're wrapping up here on Peacemaker. Which you what would you recommend? Would you recommend people watch it? I think sounds like you would, but and like I said, any final thoughts that you have?
Yeah, I would recommend it to anyone that's a DC fan if they haven't watched it already. I would think anyone that's a DC fan has probably already watched it. Anyone that's like on the outside looking in, it just depends. I think if you are kind of fatigued on Marvel and you want something different, or if you're looking for something that's a little bit more mature, than what you would get on Disney Plus and what you've been getting from Marvel Studios movies. This would be something different for sure. Again, I'm not super crazy about it, but it's not because it's too violent or too mature or not violent enough or any of that stuff. Just the character doesn't hit as hard for me. Again, he's supposed to be per John Cena, he's a douchey version of Captain America, and I think that's still accurate. But in general, the portrayal, the character itself, is not something that I am super high on. Like he can't break a top 10 for me as far as favorite characters go. But in general, with John Cena in particular portraying the character, this they're getting a lot more spotlight than they ever would have if it was anyone else, and the character will have some longevity to them. So this would be, again, they already greenlit a season two, so they're definitely you're gonna see more John Cena in the future. This is a good start. And I hope for even more involvement with not necessarily Justice League, but just the larger DC universe, like to see some other DC villains, and then some that aren't necessarily tied to Peacemaker, and other DC characters, maybe a cameo of like because again, all the characters isn't Vigilante like from the same comic universe as like Judo Master and Peacemaker, like
I'm
because they
not.
were I can't remember the name of the actual comics, but they were bought by DC Comics
Yeah,
eventually
I'm not
and were
sure. I'm
rolled
not
in.
sure about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
not
sure about
100%
that.
sure, but I know Judo Master and Peacemaker were all in like this other label of comics that were bought by DC eventually and then rolled in. So it would be nice to see them, like I said, Green Arrow. Maybe they can roll in Black Canary. Maybe they can roll in Harley Quinn, or just have some other folks show up and make it even more connected than just a little cameo of the Justice League at the end. But in general, yeah, season two will happen, and it is worth checking out. 8 episodes. It won't take all day if you haven't watched it. Whether they're like an hour or so.
Yeah,
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 it's good.
yeah. I recommend watching it. I think it like if you're looking for something different than your normal comic book show, I think this is it. Like if you're looking for a different variety and so forth, like I said, it's obviously edgier. I thought John Cena, I was really surprised with him in this series. It's like, wow, you did a really good job in what he's done with his role and the characters. I like Vigilante. Like I like the way he decided to portray him Vigilante in here, as opposed to like what the comic book is and what we've seen from Vigilante in different iterations. So yeah, the whole show I thought was really fun. James Gunn is like one of the best in the business. So it's fun to see him. It's fun to see him put his talents into uh, really get the opportunity to do what he wants with this show, and obviously he's gonna probably get to do the same in season two. So it'll be fun to see what route they go there, and if they bring, like you said, if they bring in other characters, it'll be fun as well. other various characters, vigilante type characters that exist within the DC universe, like the Huntress. You mentioned the Black Canary, all those different characters that they have. So yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see. But yeah, that's pretty much a wrap for today's show. Again, if you've missed any previous episodes, like I said, if you missed our past episode where we talked about the first half of Peacemaker, we also dove in a little bit more background on some of the characters. It's a really good, informative show. If you want to go check that out, it's maybe like 2 months back, a month, maybe 2
About
months.
a
I can't
month.
remember, a month or so back. So maybe a month or 5 weeks back. But go check that out. Check out all the other episodes, shows on Barroom where we talk about various Chicago sports. I know we did such a great job of covering the Cubs, Sox, Bears, Blackhawks, Bulls. We do all of those great things there. So check us out there. You can follow me at Science Flixtion, and then you can follow Carl at Ninja Chortle. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Till next time, science fiction fans.
All right, see you guys later.